Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Sarnes. I'm pleased to have on with me David Goldshore, who is the head boys basketball coach of the Staples Wreckers. Coach, I appreciate you coming on. This has been a long time coming to get you on here.
Thanks, Chris. I remember meeting you a couple years ago at Mohegan in our state final, I really appreciate you reaching out and wanting to do this. And it's an honor for me to be here. So thank you again for having me.
Also, too, want to say also your son's doing a fantastic job this baseball season. I saw him last year in the final. I know they kind of just, the game got away in their loss. I think it was against Amity, if I recall.
Yeah,
But I know he's again having another fantastic year. And it's funny because when I saw the name, I didn't put two and two together. And then after I was like, oh crap. Hey, this guy has your same last name.
yeah. He's a good kid, and he's doing a good job for Coach McFarland right now.
Yeah.
They just won a big one today, and yeah, he loves it. And it's great because he doesn't play basketball, and he has this thing with baseball. I have my thing with basketball, so we were able to bring our own stories to the relationship, which is pretty cool.
And it's a beautiful thing, man. So
Yeah, it really is.
best of luck the rest of the season. Maybe I'll
Thanks,
see him
thanks,
in the
Chris.
final if he can get there, in the
We're,
team. So I kind
it.
of want to hit on a little bit, man. Obviously, you've been a part of the program as an assistant 5 years, head coach 3 years, and you and I were just talking some shop. And one thing I can tell you is obviously Staples has been competitive for many, many years, but I think the switch really has been, I think, the belief of being able to compete. And I'm not saying before you it was poop. I'm not saying that by any means.
Yeah,
Seems like since you've been the head coach, like I said, that switch has been turned on where now the belief is showing on the court. And even though a state title has been the one thing that has not been there, Staples Records has shown they can wreak some havoc or wreck some havoc in terms of the state playoff and also the FC Act too. What says you?
yeah. I mean, I think it started. I worked for an excellent coach, Coach Devine, for 5 years, and he kind of taught me everything that he knew about the conference. I'm a New York guy by nature, so I didn't really know too much about the conference or
Mhm.
about the state, and he really did an excellent job, really being my mentor and teaching me just a little bit more about Connecticut basketball. So, and we started to have some success. And then, I got lucky my first year. We had a 6'9" kid by the name of Chris Sajak. And Chris was a real talented lefty who, we surrounded himself with guys like Cody Sale and Gavin Rothenberg and
Yeah.
Charlie Honig, guys who just could shoot it. And they were really good friends. And the chemistry was great. And we just had some good success. And we had a sophomore, freshman by the name of Sam Clacko, who was his first year, and Adam Udell, who was a sophomore. And I think they just were yearning for to be able to compete with they saw baseball winning state championships, lacrosse, football won a state championship. So I think it's really been a culture at Staples Athletics about winning, especially recently. So I kind of just jumped on board and built off of that, and the kids have responded.
With you being the head coach as you've been now for a couple of years, right? Obviously, there probably had to be some sort of learning curve for you, even with the years that you've been as an assistant. Was there anything in particular that kind of was a hard adjustment for you early on as a head coach?
I think it was just learning a little bit more about the league and the way the league played.
Mhm.
You know, I think the FCAC is a very defensive minded,
Yeah.
physical league,
Hmm.
and kind of getting adjusted to that and learning how to compete there. Getting to know the players, getting to know the refs, getting to know just the cultures of each of the other 15 FCAC schools. It took some time to adjust. So yeah, I mean, I think it was something that that I worked through a little bit. Again, got really good leadership from Colin and the other assistants, the Buzzwells, who I was working with, and from
Hmm.
there, kind of a lot of experience in the conference and the state helped me make that adjustment.
One thing that seeing what Staples has done, right? Like it seems like every year you guys are knocking some sort of record. I know making the state final against St. Bernard in Division Two was first time in I think like 70, 80 years. It was a long, long time, something like that. And then obviously the continuation the next 2 years. Like I said, just coming up short. But I feel like you guys are a lot closer to the title than you are farther away. How does that make you feel, Coach, as a guy who you've been a part of that? I know it takes a staff, I know it takes an army, but how do you feel what you guys have been able to do so far?
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of, we have these summer meetings with the whole program. I talk about it takes a village.
Mhm.
Like it was a great first year, and then getting back to the FCI, going to an FCI final, the state final, my first year was awesome, and then my second year going to an FCI final and losing in overtime was devastating, and so to win the conference this year, and then make the next steps in the state tournament that we've had,
Mhm.
and again, the Division II state championship the first year, and then losing in the first round of D1 my second year, and then losing in the quarterfinals last year D1. It's like a process, and I'm incredibly proud of what the kids have. They bought in. I have a great staff.
Mhm.
Um, just guys that are so invested. Coach Pickens and Coach Black and Coach Sullivan. Like it's like a family, the four of us during the season. So I have a great staff. I got great parents. I have a supportive administration, and
Mhm.
the kids just want to learn and get better. So it's been, it's a great job. I'm super excited to be the head boys basketball coach at Staples.
I sent you a message. I think it was during the summer when I saw that you guys wanted to move up to Division One, and I thought honestly, because I'm a big, big guy, and going back to the football side, where sometimes I felt like the scheduling aspect, if you could schedule out a conference, depending on who you play, whatever. I've always believed if you want to be at a certain level, if you can, and you have the team, you want to play the best to kind of measure up the competition. Basketball being able to play. I know you mentioned in the FCAC you get 5 games out of conference. NVL is now starting to get to that, adding more games as well because they have the tier system and such, so it allows them to do that. Because you guys moved up to D1, I felt like that was first off confidence in the kids. But then when I read that the kids were like, no, we want to go up there. The captain said that. I thought that was really cool, man.
Yeah, I leaned on them for that decision, and we had a lot of success. This group had a lot of success over the fall.
Mm,
That was kind of it spearheaded kind of where their mind and their level of confidence was. So going into the fall and going 12-0 in the Sheehan Summer League or Sheehan Fall League,
mm,
beating Notre Dame at Prep twice, beating Hill House twice. Again, it's the summer or it's the fall, so it's hard to compare that to what goes on during the winter. But I
mm.
think it gave the kids confidence that they can compete with the best. We had a really good first scrimmage with Notre Dame of West Haven at our place, and again, we would have liked to come, been a little bit more. The score would have been closer, but we competed and we felt like we belonged. So the decision was something that was pretty easy one for me and for the kids, and having gone to the D2 final the first year and then taking that next progression with this group, I
Mhm.
felt like they felt like they probably would be not taking the next step if they decided to stay in D1 to stay in D2. So I've gotten a lot of people that have praised the guys like you that have been really complimentary of the move. I've had other people that have questioned it because they felt like maybe this was an opportunity to go win a Division II state title. As I said to you before we started here, Chris, when I got the job, my goal was to compete every year for a Division I state championship. I feel like we have the kids. We're an 1,800 person school. We have 900 boys. We have resources. We have kids that want to work and that are dedicated and committed to the game. So it's my job and my staff's job to build a culture and a program that gives these kids an opportunity to feel like they can be the best.
One thing I could tell you, and maybe maybe because obviously high school basketball is not like the NBA where you can kind of predict to a certain degree, pardon me, who's probably going to be at a certain spot
Yeah,
because Division Two, Division Three this year, right? If you guys were to say and be Division Three, you had
yeah,
to probably go through Bunnell. Bunnell was very, very, very good. Division Two with New London and Manchester. Manchester was scoring 100 points a game. New
yeah.
London had some injuries late, but they were a dog in the ECC. So not to say that whoever was saying like, oh, well, you probably could have won a title in D2. It's not a guarantee. Plus, you would have
No,
had the road. You could have matched up with because again, a lot of it when it comes to state tournament, and you probably would agree with this. You could match up with a team that plays fast pace. Maybe you guys are a little bit slower pace, and now you're at a disadvantage. Maybe you lose that game. Who knows?
My first year, in the second round of Division II, we played Ram, and Ram is a really tough, well coached team that came into our gym and kind of scared us late.
Mhm.
We got through it and won, and then ended up being Holy Cross, and then had the great comeback against Ward. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Listen, Fitch was a very good basketball team this year. They
Yes.
beat Ludlow in the Division III quarters, I think, or the semis.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Ludlow was 16-4 and on top of our conference. I mean, there are a lot of good teams. Trumbull lost to Manchester. Like you just don't know.
Mhm.
But I felt, and to be honest with you, it's 16 teams, right? It's not 32 teams, so you have to win one less game in order to win the state championship. Again, that wasn't what my thinking was, but I think it was just the process and the steps that we've taken. But no, there's no guarantees in any of the divisions. You can run into a team that gets really hot, and
Mhm.
you're kind of out of luck there. So um, yeah, I'm proud of what the kids have accomplished. I'm proud of the steps that they've taken.
Mhm.
Um, you know, D1 is something that I hope that we are put in next year, because I feel like we've earned the right to be there again,
Mhm.
um, and would love to be able to compete with quote unquote the best teams in the state.
This next question kind of goes to what was the big hot topic with Division 1 and kind of like, oh, having the Catholic schools, private schools being in their own, division, which will never ever happen because there's not as many as people think. And also, two, not every Catholic school is dominant. Now, there's a good amount of them, but again, not every single one. And then if you do it for basketball, you got to do it for other sports. And some of them don't even have the particular sports, or they co-op and all this other thing. When you see that kind of stuff, that debate going on, coach, and I know it's during the season, so obviously you're not on Twitter, you're not on X, you're not on social media, you're focusing on your team. But after the season was over and you were able to digest everything, how tough was it sometimes to maybe not go on social media and spew everything out? Because obviously you're representing Staples, but also too, you do have a right to have an opinion. And if you think about something and you truly believe it, you should be able to speak your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a huge social media
Mhm.
person. We have a Staples Boys Instagram account that really is there to
Mhm.
give community information about the program, highlight some of the accomplishments of the kids. It's really all about the kids. So I don't think I really, lost a lot of sleep thinking about, not being able to express my thoughts on some of this stuff. Personally, I'm happy that the public schools, that the Catholic schools don't have a separate league, because I feel that even, again, we were talking about this before, nowadays, keeping kids in the CIAC is a challenge with,
Yeah.
what the prep school coaches are selling to them or guaranteeing them.
Mhm.
And they do have access to them year round. There's a lot of benefits of going to play in the prep schools. But that, and then you put on top of that, taking some of the better players and wanting to compete in the best conference in the school of choice, it leaves the public schools in a state of disarray a little bit. And so, again, I'm a firm believer, and it depends on what school we're talking about. If you're talking about a small public school in Connecticut, it's going to be tough to compete for championships year after year after year. But if you're talking about a school like Staples that has close to 2,000 kids and a great youth program and committed community in regards to basketball and resources,
Yeah.
um, if you coach them, if you coach them and put
Mhm.
an environment that allows them to be successful. Now, listen, are they going to compete for state championships every year? No, they're going to have good classes and bad classes,
Mhm.
but if you can build a good youth program and make it about the community, I
Mhm.
feel like consistency is something that you can attain.
I could tell you because I did the Holy Cross Notre Dame prep game, and I've never seen as many prep schools as I did. They were like hawks. As soon as the game was over, they were like, it was crazy. And again, I'm not trying to say that in a disparaging way, but
Yeah,
it's like these are high school kids. Let them breathe. Like the game just got over, and you're like, like coming after them like they see the blood in the water like sharks and they're pouncing on it. It's like the game just ended 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a really challenging debate, and there's pluses and minuses of both options.
Mhm.
I'm a public school or a person by heart. I think playing for your community, playing for your
Mhm.
town, playing with your friends, playing in front of your the students, and it's just something that is just once in a lifetime experience.
Mhm.
And you know, going to a Staples gym on a Friday night, and you're playing New Canaan, or you're playing Ridgefield, and there's 750 to 1,000 kids in the gym, or 1,000 people in
Mhm.
the gym, and you have the youth kids coming over to you at the end of the game asking for your autographs, and you have alumni showing up, and
Yeah.
it's just an experience, right? And
Mhm.
you know, to me, that's really what high school sports is about. So anything that I can do to keep public school basketball at as high as level I can in the state of Connecticut, I will. Um, but I understand that where some of these kids are, and the history of where they've ended up by being in prep school, and
Mhm.
um, you know the argument that the competition is better. It's hard for me to answer that. I've never coached in the prep school. I can tell you that I'm not sure how thrilling it is to go to a play at a 4:15 game on a random Thursday when there's 15 kids and 15 people watching, but you do have college, probably more college exposure, and
Mhm.
and that's there are pluses and minuses to it. So again, I'm a public school person. I'm happy that we were able to have the opportunity to opt up and to be able to compete in D1 against school of choices and try to compete. And I'm proud of my boys. We had an opportunity to, we're up at St. Bernard this year on February 1st, and we're leading by 2 going into the fourth quarter, and fell a little short. And then I thought we competed really well without our best player.
Mhm.
Um, at the end of the season to injury against them in the quarters, where a shot or here goes here or there, and maybe the outcome's a little bit different. So I feel like we can do it.
At the end of the day, I know every case it's a case by case basis, but I feel like, if you feel like prep is the opportunity, you want to go to it, fine, go right ahead. But at the same time, I'm a big believer in if you can play, people will find you. Like baseball, for example, small schools, how many times do you see guys coming from some school in like the middle of Ohio or like Iowa or something like that, ends up being a stud. In football, Tony Romo, my Dallas Cowboys, undrafted. He had a pretty good career. Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Came from a school I can't even tell you, but he played in the Super Bowl, played for the Patriots, the whole nine. Obviously, now he's been bouncing around a little bit. But the point is, I feel like at the end of the day, if you can play, people now obviously you may have to do a little extra depending on the sport to kind of get that extra exposure. But I don't know. I'm kind of in that, camp of if you can play, you'll be found one way, especially now with social media.
Listen, if you throw 94 and you're playing on pavement, they're going to find you.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like, they're going to find you, right? So, I think that for some of the kids that are like called tweeners,
Mhm.
where maybe the extra year, but at the same time they also have that opportunity to do a postgraduate. Like, I'm not against the postgraduate. I think for kids that, especially now, where the portals change the landscape of recruiting, and you hear something about like a guy like Rick Pitino that doesn't even talk to high school kids, like taking an extra year,
Mhm.
developing your game, having an opportunity to go maybe, again, take that PG year is the best
Mhm.
of both worlds. You get your 4 years playing in the town in front of your friends,
Mhm.
for the community, and then,
Mhm.
to quote LeBron James, you take your talents to a prep school and see where it takes you. So, but I agree with you, Chris. If you're good, they're going to find you. If Torrey played at Staples, they'd find him. If Torrey played at Weston, they'd find him. If Torrey played at Pomparock, they'd find him. And if Torrey played at Notre Dame or West Haven, they'd find him. Right? That doesn't matter, right? And you can see that by
Yeah.
the offers that he has and what he's done. So it's good to see.
Coach, before I let you go, I just got to ask, now that the basketball season's over, do you have time now to breathe? Can you watch your son play baseball? Can you actually enjoy your life, or is it still basketball year round?
No, I mean the job. I'm sure the job is more of a 12-month a year job than than my understanding it has been in the past. I mean, whether it's with making sure that you're going to, keeping track of them during AU, making sure
Mhm.
that you have like off-season strength and conditioning and shoot arounds where
Yeah.
we have an off-season coach that comes in and works with them. Now we have the opportunity to coach them during the summer for 6 weeks.
Mhm.
So, it's it never really stops. But I have had the opportunity to watch my son play. He's actually going to Trinity College next year and going to catch for Coach Adamski, which is
Nice.
an honor, and super excited about that for him. I own a business, so now I get back to doing work with my partner, and my wife. Some days she likes me in the house, and some days she doesn't like me in the house. So it's been good. I've been back to some sort of normalcy. But Chris, I love coaching high school basketball. I love the opportunity that I have at Staples.
Mhm.
And it's been an absolute dream to be able to do what I've done these last 8 years.
I'm happy to hear that he's staying local and staying in more so in the NESCAC, the Little Ivy, playing for the Bantams. I mean, first off, the baseball field is beautiful. Obviously, it's turf, it's on the campus. Pardon me. And also, too, you also have in the outfield, in the back, you've got the apartments where the kids stay too. So if your son hits a tank and it goes out, he could actually break a window.
I love it. Yeah, it's a really cool place to
Mhm.
go to school and to play. I went to Michigan, so and I worked for the Fab Five as a student manager. That's kind of how I got my entree into coaching,
That's
which
cool.
was which was really cool. But for him going to a smaller school like that,
Mhm.
and then having the opportunity to play and be part of something,
Mhm.
and they've just built this whole new wellness center. It's a really cool place to go as well, and the field is awesome. It really is. It's awesome. I took him up there a couple of weeks ago. We watched him, play toughs, which was fun.
Nice.
So again, it's an honor to get that for him to get that opportunity. He's 75 minutes away from me, so I can go up there. Hopefully, I won't bother him too much, but I'm excited. But he's got some business left here in the last 5 weeks with Coach McFarland and Staples, and
Mhm.
wants the opportunity to to outdo his father with basketball and maybe win an FCAC and potentially win a state championship. That's his goal. So no one would be happier than I would be if he was able to accomplish that.
Coach, we've gone about 45 minutes between before the recording and during, and you just throw in the nugget about you working with the Fab Five
Sorry,
behind the
sorry, yeah,
scenes. Like that's so that's awesome.
yeah. It was a. I'm sorry about that. It was a great experience. It's kind of how I got my start into just wanting to be a coach and thinking
Cool.
that I wanted to coach. Yeah, it
Mhm.
was. Coach Fisher was there, and it was a crazy time because my freshman year was their freshman year. I'm
Yeah.
91, they graduated 95, and the five
Yeah.
of them came in as freshmen, and had some incredible experiences, learned a lot, and really kind of just it really just increased my itch to
Mhm.
do what I do now. So yeah, we'll talk about. We'll have time. We'll chat about it more at another time. But it was a great experience. Really lucky to have that.
Coach, I really appreciate you coming on. I really want to get you back on in the near future. All right, man.
Chris, I appreciate it. Thank you. Good luck with everything. Congratulations on your newly wedding and your new marriage. And if there's anything you need from me, you know where to find me. Thanks, Chris.
I appreciate that. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Talk to
We'll
you soon,
wrap
buddy.
things up here on the CT Sports Talent Show. Next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. Enjoy, find them all. Enjoy the show, everybody, and be well.